Nick, what was your reaction to KD's tweets?
Well, my actual reaction was, sitting in an Uber on our way to get a late meal, my wife alerting me that she was getting texts. And then I looked, and my actual reaction was a little dismay, and then amusement, and then joy. If I'm being totally honest, I mean, the whole thing is delightful.
And we want you to be.
That's my first real-time reaction. I'm not going to pretend. The whole thing's fun. Now, let me say this. Having that tweet I sent read aloud to me, I mean, it was mean. So, I don't blame Kevin Durant for responding.
Yeah, it was.
And it also was something. It was a callback to, and Brew, and you'll remember. Everyone might remember this. The Sports Illustrated cover before he won his first MVP, where he said he's been second his whole life. So it was a little knife twisting by me. He said I was second player out of high school. I'm second in MVP voting. It was right after they lost in the finals to LeBron. And so I thought it was a funny tweet, but it was a rude tweet, and I got no problem with KD responding. Also, big win for me, Brew. I've been upgraded in the Nets locker room from puppet to peasant. I think peasant is ahead of puppet. Kyrie, of course, said I was a puppet. KD says I could be a god. Thank you, Kevin. But instead I choose to be a peasant. But on the actual meat of it, my reaction is, KD responded because what I said was true. And I'm sure he has a great life. I know he does. He's one of the greatest basketball players ever. He has been an incredible businessman, incredibly charitable. All these things are wonderful. But as a competitor, it's gotta sting that someone who might end up being the 13th greatest player in the history of the game isn't ever going to spend a single solitary year as the best player in the league. And what Giannis is doing to him now mirrors almost exactly what LeBron did to him before he went to Golden State, which is take his lunch money whenever they play. It's 5 in a row now for Giannis. 5 in a row for Giannis against KD and the Nets. For dating back to the greatest game KD's ever played, Game 5, another game I was in the building for, Game 5 in Barclays. The last 5, including a Game 7 in his arena, and all 3 times this season, Giannis keeps winning. And Giannis continually is the best player on the court. So that's my reaction. My reaction is that again, KD's allowed to respond. I thought it was funny. That's fine. But what I said was true. And I think that's why he responded. A lot of tweets someone can respond to. That one touched a nerve because it's accurate.
Well, first, let me say welcome to the club, Nick. You are now an official member of the NBA media because KD has done this to every member of the NBA media, including myself, as you know. Your MVP vote hopefully will be on the way pretty soon because now you're NBA media.
But check that box.
Look,
yeah.
I'll say this. A lot of people look at KD's actions on social media and the fact that he responds to media members, random people, 14-year-olds in study hall, whatever it may be, he responds to them on his social media. They look at it as a sign of weakness or sensitivity. I don't look at it that way. Now, the burner account, yes, that's weak, a burner account. But overall, I don't look at it as a sign of weakness that Kevin Durant does this. I actually think it's the opposite because he is able to read all of the criticism, all of the negative things people say to him, as well as the positive, of course, and still go out there and play ball to his optimum level. Like, everybody can't do that. There are players, you know this, Wild.
That's correct.
When they come to New York, people tell them, don't read the back page. And they don't because they don't want that getting in their head. LeBron famously started going, 0 dark 23 during the playoffs and not, getting on social media and watching SportsCenter and things like that because he didn't want stuff getting in his head. Kevin Durant doesn't have that problem. And that, I think that is not a sign of weakness. That's actually a sign of strength, that he can take all that, go out and still play well.
Totally
I think
agree.
his actions on social media, Wilds, are just he's a kid of that generation. He grew up on social media, responding to everybody, always on his phone, and he enjoys it. He's actually texted me once that DM, that he enjoys the back and forth. So I don't think it's weakness, Wilds. I actually think it's the fact that he can still go out and ball, that's strength.
And I also am in the responding to KD club, but I'm a little old school. You know, I sent him a fax and still waiting back to see if he's gotten it. So we'll see, but I'm more of a fax guy. You're doing the DMs and the Twitter. Oh, KW, putting it through. I will take it a step further than you did, even, Broussard. We have put our sports heroes on such a pedestal that one of parts of American sports folklore is Yogi Berra or Duke Snider. They used to come and play stickball in the streets, and that's what made Brooklyn Dodgers so great. They were just living down the street, and I'd say, Yogi Berra, can you teach me how to catch? And he would say, okay. What Kevin Durant does as just a fan of the game, he's not always defending himself. Sometimes he just jumps in and just talks basketball, is the modern day equivalent of Duke Snider playing stickball in the streets. It is the digital equivalent of that. It's like, hey, analogy. I'm a fan too. I like the sport too. I wanna mix it up with you guys. So I think that's great. But to Nick's point, I don't think he has that big of an issue with being second best. I think he hangs his hat on best scorer or one of the best current scorer in the league and one of the best players of all time. I don't know if he's that wrapped up in being number one. And I also think, just real quick, it's hard to tell somebody they're not number one when they've got finals MVP trophies. I think it's well, you're not. It's really? Because that's the tournament that we play in to determine who is the best. And I was the best twice.
Right. So here's the thing. So that is the root of this. Now, listen, maybe KD has since evolved from it, but I know unequivocally from people in the room with Kevin shortly after, at least, I don't know if it was the first or the second finals MVP, that there was a level of dismay and just, discourage the wrong word, but from Kevin that he was not, after at least the first one, against LeBron, that people weren't saying he's the best player alive. And I think you saw, and then it was then confirmed outwardly by the actions, by the continued litigation with the burner stuff, which was arguing about the decision to go to Golden State, who the best player is, all of that stuff. So maybe at this point, you know what I mean, he's evolved past it. I would argue last night was an indication he has not. I do think that bothers him. By the way, it bothers a lot of competitors. Bless you. It bothers a lot of competitors that I'm this great, yet my whole career there has been somebody greater. And the moment, because I think right now most people believe he has surpassed LeBron. That he is, that he is a better. I think most people believe he's a better player than LeBron. And right around the exact time that's happened, not everyone, but I think the people that know what they're saying say, okay, but now somebody else is better than you. It's like he got skipped in line. And so I don't think it's coincidence. I've seen a lot of Kevin Durant tweets, some good, some bad, some mean, some funny, some nice, all of it. The only time he and I have ever had a back and forth was about ranking players, and that was friendly, and then this one. So the idea that it's I'm just the greatest scorer and I'm one of the greatest players ever, I don't think that is enough. And and by the way, I don't think it should be. I think the greatest competitors want to be the best. And I think it does sting that he's that good and he's not the best.
Okay.
Well, Nick, I don't think he thinks he's not the best. That's the difference. And a lot of people, look, you and I believe, and Wilds, we all believe Giannis is the best. But a lot of people, maybe most people, still think KD is the best player in the league. A good number of people still think KD is. I'm sure he does. And look, last night, fine. He took KD's lunch money, Giannis. He hasn't done that in these 5 straight wins. I mean, KD has been right there. KD's had teammates injured, but he's played well and he's balled out.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.